Smile. Go.
Hello, my name is Gerald Schroeder. I teach the flowing together of science and the Bible. My science background is rather strong at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I earned my bachelor's, my master's, my PhD there, my doctorate there. I was on the physics staff for several years. And this session will have to do with bringing those data of science into what I teach now, is this understanding of this flow together of Bible study and science. And the session has to do specifically this time with it's kind of a surprising topic, the discovery of the love of God for all the world and for all humankind in the laws of nature. The Big Bang, the creation of the universe, brings into the world the beginning of this world. And it's a burst of energy, a huge fire. This is quite a graphic picture, but you can see we have this tiny explosion of energy. And essentially it's light, not fire, because fire is stuff, it's just pure light, super powerful light beams. And over time, they change and morph again and morph again, and finally become people, us here today. And the wonder isn't how much time it took. Was it billions of years, 6 days, 1,000 years, 6,000 years? The wonder is those bursts of energy became alive, sentient, feeling love. A light beam learned love. Where does a light beam have the chutzpah, the brazenness to feel love? But that's what every scientist holds. Because the Big Bang didn't produce matter, it produced energy, super powerful light beams. And that in itself is such an indication of the Creator's love for the creation itself, that it could bring forth this emotion, this wonderful emotion of love. And I'd like to go through a few examples of how, in fact, the world, from statements in Psalms, the world from statements in science, in fact, tell us and show us from two different perspectives, science and Bible, this love of God in the world. But I first want to start with a story, a rather amazing story, actually. A story of love, because we see that love is a fundamental aspect in the world. I mean, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. That's Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4, and also in the book of Mark, when the disciples ask Jesus for the most important sentence ever made. He says, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And then the next sentence, in both Deuteronomy chapter 6 and in Mark, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, all your might. Love is essential in this world. The world it sounds strange, but it's a substrate of the world. And you shall love your neighbor as yourself. The book of Leviticus, chapter 19, verse 18. Clearly indications, and that you shall love your neighbor. The word re'echo means spouse, means neighbor, means your immediate community. It's easy to love the world in general, but the key is to love individuals also. So I want to tell a story of two individuals and an expression of love. Because when we read that sentence in Leviticus chapter 19, 18, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, the sentence continues, I am the Lord, your God. So we're going to go back a few thousand years into Rome. And Rome is divided now into part east, centered in Rome, and in the western part in Damascus. And there's a big conflict between the two. The Roman Empire is splitting apart. So two men, I'll call one named Moses and one named Isaac, were great friends when they were young, and they studied together, they studied Bible together, they studied business together. And then to make a living, Moses stayed in Rome with his family, and Isaac moved to Damascus. And moving to Damascus, they could then trade between the products of the East with the products of the Italian market. And so the two would meet once a year. Sometimes Isaac would come to Rome, sometimes Moses would go to Damascus. So the year came, they were talking about this, in this episode, of this event, Moses from Rome takes a boat, sails to Beirut, hires horses, goes to Damascus, and he meets with Isaac. They actually hug. They're such close friends. They're just getting to talk for the first time in the year, face to face. The door bursts open, guards run in, they grab Moses. You're a spy. You came from Rome and you're spying on us. I'm a businessman, he says. I have nothing to... You're a spy. They take him, they try him for treason, for being a spy, and they're going to hang him. Moses pleads, if you find me guilty, but at least give me the opportunity to go home, to settle my affairs. I'm a businessman. I owe people money. I don't want to go to the grave with these debts on my shoulders. And debtors owe me money. My family has to live. Let me go home for a month. I'll come back in a month and you can hang me. Well, the guards think that's the funniest thing they've ever heard. I mean, really? You're going to come back? You go to Rome, we'll never see you again. Yeah. At which point Isaac pipes up and says, no, it's fine. I'm his guarantor. He'll come back. What do you mean you're guarantor? If he doesn't come back, you hang me. Wait a minute. You're willing to hang for this guy Moses? He's my friend. Of course he'll come back. Oh, this I've got to see. But this will be wonderful to see. Okay, Moses, you go home. They check the date. You have 30 days to be back here. The execution takes place in 30 days at 8 in the morning, just after sunrise. Moses leaves, gets horses, rides to Beirut, gets on a boat, sails home, spends a week with his family, settling debts, tremendous emotion that they're going to see him again. He's instead of just a 3-day passage, a 3 to 4 day passage, he's giving himself over a week of time, almost twice the amount of time for the boat to make the trip. Gets on the boat to sail from the port near Rome, Ostia, and fair wind, boat sails out into the Mediterranean. The one day out, calm. The winds stop. If you've never seen a calm in the sea, I have, because my doctorate is in several fields, and one had some oceanographic work with it. A calm in the ocean isn't that there are ripples. The water turns to glass. There's not a sound, not a motion. It is just pure glass. And when the sun sets red on the horizon, at the speed of light, that red shoots across the ocean and bathes you in its red. Well, the beauty of that sunset was lost totally on Moses. He had to get to Damascus. A day passes, 2 days pass, the going by. So, the free time, the extra time is gone. And then the winds pick up, and as if they were storing their energy for this last push, the boat literally flies through the water. It pulls into Beirut harbor. Moses jumps off the boat, grabs a pouch of money, just throws it at his skipper, keep the change. He races to pay for his taxi. He races over, gets a team of horses. They ride halfway there, they change horses, get faster again. They careen into the square where the gallows is set up, but it's too late. It's 11 o'clock in the morning. The hanging was at 8 o'clock. Except the king was so interested in showing how foolish these people could be that he decided to hold off the hanging until noon, when many people could get together and see how foolish this couple had been. So Moses leaps off the horse. He sees his friend tied at the gallows, bound like this, rope hanging next to him, and he runs up to the executioner. I'm back, I'm Moses, I'm back. At which point he said, oh, you did come back after all. Well, lucky you, we postponed the execution. So he starts to untie Isaac. Isaac says, wait a minute, no. You're making a mistake here. I had a deal that Moses would be back at 8 o'clock in the morning. That's the execution time. It's now 11 o'clock. He missed it. You have to hang me. The executioner says, in fact, it sounds sensible. You're right. So he starts to retie Isaac. But Moses says, are you mad? I'm the guilty one. I'm the traitor. You have to hang me. The guy said, of course, that's right. He starts to untie Isaac to bind Moses. Back and forth, hang me. This is crazy. Well, the executioner is lost. He has no idea what to do. What does he do? He goes to the king. He tells the king the entire story. The king says, leave me alone for a while. I have to think. He shuts the door. It's totally silent. There is not a sound to be heard except the wind pushing its way through and past the rope of the gallows. The king comes out. His door opens. And there's a strange expression on his face. And there's no sound. No one can understand what's going to happen. The king says, I'll let you both go free. I'll let you both go free on one condition. You make me your third friend. You should love your neighbor. You should love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. When you have a friendship that's so close, you get a third one in the bargain. God. That's what love does in this world. And to get now to see some of the places where it shows up in Psalms and in the world, well, the first would be, in fact, if I were asked, in fact, I was asked once on a radio program, show me an example of God's love. It was just a sudden question, no lead into this. And I said, the smell of hot chocolate chip cookies coming out of the oven. I mean, everyone loves that smell. And it's interesting because the idea of the beauty of smell is as old as the Bible. In the Song of Songs, we read here, for the winter is over, and the rain is past and gone. The flowers appear on the earth. The time of song has come. The call of the turtle dove is heard in the land. The fig tree is ripening, its early figs, and the vines and blossoms give forth their fragrance. Smell has been a part of that's the Song of Songs. Smell has been part of the Bible since the Bible. And so just the ability to smell, we take it for granted, but it's exactly a gift of love. Food could have smelled terribly. We'd still eat it if we were hungry, but we get this beauty, this gift. And what about the earth? What about the earth? We just take it for granted that we have a platform from the earth. But in Psalm 115 tells us Hashemayim Shemayim Shemot Noi v'Aretz Otenu B'nei Adam. I read it exactly from the text in the English. It's in the Hebrew originally, of course. The heavens are the Lord's heavens. The heavens belong to the Lord, but the earth He has given to mankind. We are given the earth as a gift. But think about this amazing gift. It's a perfect flat platform for life. It has just the right gravity to hold in oxygen. We need oxygen to breathe. But it's only about 20-25% of the atmosphere. All the rest is nitrogen. Why not make it 100%? In other words, why have all this extra nitrogen, which we don't need? Because if the atmosphere were even twice as much as it is now of oxygen, paper, wood would spontaneously burst into combustion. That nitrogen in there just happens to be the right amount to tamp down the reactivity of oxygen so that it's enough for us to breathe and for our biology inside us to use that oxygen to, as it were, biologically burn the food we eat to give us the energy, but not so much a concentration that things of their organic nature would burst into fire. That's just an aspect, and the gravity of the earth holds this atmosphere. And the earth just happens to be in the right zone with just the right gravity to hold an atmosphere so that we can maintain temperature and oxygen. Venus, a sister planet, the next planet in, is just a bit too close. The temperature of Venus on the surface is 900 Fahrenheit, 500 centigrade. Lead is molten on the surface of Venus. No organic compounds form at that temperature, no life. And Mars? Mars is the next planet out. And what about Mars? Well, it's so far out, and it's such a weak atmosphere and a weak gravity to hold the atmosphere that it's essentially most of its water, the vast amounts of its water, has either evaporated or has been frozen in the caps. There's some slight water left, and we know at one time there was a lot of water because there are channels that we see. But they're not canals, they're runoff channels, but the water's gone now. The water's gone. So we got an earth, and the heavens belong to heaven, but the earth God has given to man. The Psalm says it exactly. Psalm 115 is an exact statement. And what about the fact that we can walk around without rubbers or without swimming? We just take dry land for granted. But that dry land is a complete gift of God, and we see it very clearly in Psalm 104, because in Psalm 104, again, all from the book of all from Psalm 104. Let's just read Thou, God, did establish the earth upon its pillars. that it might never be shaken. Thou hast covered it with the deep, really the deep of the oceans, as with a garment. The waters stood above the mountains. At thy rebuke they fled. At the sound of thy thunder they hastened away. The mountains rose, the valley sank down to the place which thou hast founded for them, that they set a limit which they should not cross over. Can you realize that dry land is a gift for life? If we didn't have something on the earth which no other planet we know of has, namely continental drift. Do you realize that the continent of North America is moving away from Europe by about a centimeter away? The continent of South America is moving away from Africa about a centimeter away, and it moves from east to west. And what does that mean? As the west pushes forward, mountains form. Originally, the earth was quite smooth. Not smooth like like a billiard ball or a soccer ball. Smooth like the hills and valleys you see outside your window. I see outside my window. Why? But mostly round, because gravity pulls things in. That's why the sun appears round to our eyes and the moon appears round. There are hills and valleys on the moon, but the gravity wants to make things round because it's pulling in the matter from all directions. So how do we have mountains and dry land? As these crusts, as the earth which was molten cooled, then what's called plates, but I'll make it simple. Continents form, continent-sized plates, and they move like a crust on the surface. And as they move, they push the molten part that's in front of them, like going from east to west. So the west coast of South America has the Andes, steep mountains. The west coast of the United States has the Rockies, steep mountains. The Adirondacks on the east coast are quite weathered because they're old. But as these crusts now going back early in the stages weathered, they built up more and more land. Valleys sank down exactly as Psalm 104. And we now have deep oceans. If that hadn't happened, earthquakes are a problem. They bring devastation, but without earthquakes, without the motion of the continents like this, we would not have dry land above the waters. The earth would have been, figuratively speaking, smooth. If we took all the water from the oceans today in a big bulldozer, pushed the continents, earth back into the oceans, so the ocean water would rise. If we made the earth smooth the hills and valleys, but not the depths of the ocean, the entire earth would be covered by 1.5 miles of water. 2 kilometers of water would cover the entire earth. There would be no dry land. In fact, in the Hebrew prayers every morning, we thank God for spreading the land above the waters. It's something to think about. And that when next time you read it, Psalm 104, which you should quite often, you see this whole development of the life. We have eyes. We just take it for granted. Do you realize the picture in your eye, as you move your head around, you can see one view, changes over 10 times a second. You can't say in 1 second it changes 10 times a second in 1 second. But your eye is doing chemical reactions that go like this, that change the picture as fast as you can say that. If they didn't, you would have to walk very slowly. I'm a bike rider. I wouldn't be able to bike because if the picture only changed in your head once a second, you have to watch every step for a second. But here, it's so rapidly that you can actually wonder at the rate at which these chemical reactions take place, and yet we're able to see this beauty, and we see that very clearly in Psalm 36. For with you, God, is the fountain of life. By your light, we see light. The Big Bang poured energy into the world that may be transferred, but the light of creation is you and me and the light around us. So here we have even this, we just take so many things of this, examples of the love of God, and none of this had to happen. Remember, we're talking about a burst of energy that produced super powerful light beams. And over time, they became you and me and the film you're watching. You think these subtleties that exist, ears to hear, and Psalm 93, and Psalm 93 is just another one. The floods have lifted up up their voice, O Lord. The floods have lifted up their voice. The floods lift up their mighty waves. But above the sound of the many waters, the mighty breakers of the sea, the Lord on high stands supreme. Thy testimonies are very sure. Holiness befits thy name, O Lord, forever and ever. Above the sound of the mighty breakers of the sea, the Lord on high stands supreme. Constantly we see these relationships to the world in Psalms, and one pointing out things that we take for granted. The very fact that we can hear a baby's cry and the sound of the breakers is just, we hear them both. If you think about sound, middle C is approximately 260 cycles per second. That is the waves that are moving to your ear about 260 times a second. It's almost 2 to the 8th. 2, 4, 8, 16, 30, 32, 64, 122, 56. It's almost 2 to the 8th. It's a bit higher. 260 cycles a second. And we can distinguish C and C sharp, which is 277 cycles a second. If you go to 2 octaves above to C, the note C, when I'm saying C, I mean the note C, 2 octaves higher, that C 2 octaves higher is about 1,050 cycles per second. C sharp there is 1,100 cycles per second. Do you realize the sensitivity? This is probably the most sensitive part of your body. That these hairs inside your ears that move and they stimulate nerves at the bottom, can differentiate because of the construction of the ear, this loop that you have inside of you. Let some of the information get in, these motions get in, and you can distinguish 1,000 cycles a second. It's extraordinary. Clearly, as it says in Psalm 85, the truth shall spring from the earth. The heavens tell of God's Hashemayim Meshaprim Kavodo. The heavens tell of God's glory, and the earth speaks out the wonder of God. If you're seeking hints of the love of God in this universe, just look around the universe and you'll find them. And the wonder is, as science discovers, from the science point of view, and Psalms, the book of Psalms, and the Bible, and Song of Songs tells us, from God's point of view, once again, they come to match. It is the same hand in a glove. Run over?